Mr. Baskett's going to come back to the microphone and give us a little about dual enrollment.
All right, thank you for that introduction again, reintroduction, I should say. And so before I move on, I want to point out as a former English teacher that this slide is foreshadowing for what's to come with our partnerships with Midlands Tech. So this student seems to be an elementary age student. And so one thing we're going to be working on with Midlands Tech, and it's in progress now, is a K to career focus. And so I want to point that out as a former English teacher, but we'll talk about it a little bit more. So dual enrollment in Lexington School District One is a part of our system commitment one. And we're working on preparing those students to advance on time, prepared to graduate and ready to enter college. And so as you look at the first part, higher education partners, we have Piedmont Technical College, which they focus more on the agricultural classes at Pillion High School. Then you have Midlands Technical College, who serves every school except for Pillion right now, but we're gonna be working on that in the spring. And then USC Sumter, they offer courses for all of our high schools. And one thing I didn't mention about Midlands Tech is they also, it's good to follow Howard, is because with Lula, students who need those online courses, Midlands Tech provides some of those course offerings that we need to kind of fill schedules. And so with Midlands Technical College, you have something that is, they differentiate between their classes being online and virtual. So sometimes you might think those are synonymous or the same, and for them it's not. So online is an asynchronous option where it is more of a, you still have deadlines and self-paced options that self-paced, but there's still deadlines, and there's not a particular time they meet. Whereas virtual is a synchronous option where it does meet at a particular day and time. And so we do have students in both of those types of courses across all of our high schools except for Pillion High School. And so I wanted to point out with our partners, as I just mentioned about Midlands Tech and Lexington One, the partnership, in our preliminary conversation and those that are to follow, we're working on how to not just focus on dual enrollment in the high school sense, but also thinking about how do we get students access to higher education opportunities and career opportunities as early as elementary school. And so that as they're progressing through elementary school and middle school and high school and learning more about their interests, we can pair them with those particular career programs and pathways to learn more about them, which means they're gonna be more informed about their decisions when they decide to leave us. So pointing back to Commitment One, that's also focusing on industry with certification. So if they're getting certified in industry or they're deciding I want to pursue higher education and continue my educational career. Improvement of student access. So we've done a lot of work in the last year to make the application process much simpler. We do believe that's been a barrier in the past for students where sometimes if something is too challenging on the front end, you may say, you know what, I knew I couldn't do this college thing. I'm just not even gonna try. And so we've shifted some of the paper applications to online formats, and there's still the paper application if you need it, but we reduced some of those steps that students had to complete to get into the classes. And so that's why you might see that our numbers increased from last year around 600 students to about 700 students as of today, about 703, I just looked, just to make sure. Another thing that we've done is we tried to increase opportunity knowledge with the schools. So how do we communicate to our students who's eligible for dual enrollment classes? One thing I like to point out with Midlands Technical College is they use multiple measures to identify students or to qualify them for dual enrollment courses. So you can qualify with the 3.0 GPA, you can qualify with your standardized test scores through pre-ACT, PSAT, which are both taken in 10th grade. PSAT can also be taken in the junior year. And then also your SAT and your ACT. And then the third thing, if you can't qualify based on the 3.0 GPA or the standardized test scores, you can take the AccuPlacer placement test, which is administered by College Board. So there are many options to allow you to qualify for dual enrollment.
I'm gonna jump in on this because I think there's a moment that seems like it makes perfect sense. But that didn't happen overnight either.
Right.
Right, so we've come a long way when it comes to that. Midlands Tech was a very difficult partnership to come to those terms with, and we're very grateful that they've done that because we really see that, or I really see that as a game changer for our district. But it's taken the better part of 4.5 years to get to that moment, and for me, personally, this was a huge moment when Midlands Tech came to the table with multiple measures. Because up to this point, it was incredibly difficult for any student to take any dual enrollment at Midlands Tech. And that's why USC Sumter was our primary model holder. Now that Midlands Tech is involved, we've opened up the array of coursework and courses and opportunities and perhaps even professors and those kinds of things, whereas before that was not really possible for us. So now we have USC Sumter and Midlands Tech working hand in hand. And so when we talk about 700 students, remember, I think just a few years ago, this was down to like at 100 students. Now it's at 700, where we see we're going to continue to move that on. 700 is not the top. We really, as Michael Jordan once said, the ceiling is the roof. We have a lot of growth left, we believe, in the dual enrollment program.
Sure, and as you even mentioned with the online options and some of the board members mentioned, we have students at every high school taking at least one online dual enrollment course. That includes Pillion High School, who USC Sumter does not offer as many online courses, but they do offer a speech class that's online, and we have at least one student who's taken that course, who's a Lula student, but is able to take that course through USC Sumter. And then, like I said, every other high school, including, I think I looked, and we had about 13 Lula students who are taking courses through Midlands Technical College right now, either the online course or the virtual course. And we even have some students who are taking courses on the Midlands Tech campus right now. There's one student who's a Lexington High School student. She is taking courses at the Beltline campus. And then we have one student at River Bluff High School who is taking courses at the airport campus. So we're steadily growing in that area with Midlands Tech, and it's really moved very quickly within the last year. Towards the end of the first semester last year to where we are right now, we've made a lot of progress. With the program growth and sustainability, Dr. Little's mentioned that, and I also mentioned that a little bit earlier, where much before I started in this position, and I look back at some numbers, I believe that dual enrollments really kind of took off in 2013-14 school year, which started around 50 students. You look at about 7 to 8 years later, and we're at 700, and that's going to continue to grow as more families learn more and more about what we offer. We tried to make information more accessible, and we have done that. And I get calls and emails from families, if not every day, every other day, asking questions about what can I do for my child now? What can I do for my child in the spring? And they're really looking for advisement. And so I'm working very closely with the high schools, Lexington Technology Center, and then also Lula, to provide as much information as we can for students, and then making sure that students that it's a simple process to get registered and to apply, and then also to register for those dual enrollment courses. But I want to talk about, when I talk about growth and sustainability, financial assistance or the whole finance system when it comes to dual enrollment courses and how much they cost, right? And so right now, our students, if they're taking at least 2 courses, so about 6 credit hours, those courses are completely free to them based on state funding. So with Midlands Tech, that's SC WINS funding, and then with USC Sumter, that is the LTAP funding, or Lottery Tuition Assistance Program. And so it removes barriers. It breaks down those barriers for students. Something we still have an opportunity to look more closely at and to examine is the cost of textbooks. That has been a concern that I've gotten questions about in recent weeks. So that's something that we can look forward to talk about later on, is what we can do to assist families with textbooks as those enrollment numbers grow. And the challenge in that is that with academic freedom, textbooks can change from semester to semester, and including with instructors. Some of our high schools do have what's called affiliate instructors, which means they're teachers who work for our district, but they've been approved by the college or university to teach the course. And then we also have adjunct instructors who work specifically for the college and university, and they come into our schools. So we have both of those going on right now. But as far as potential savings for students who've taken dual enrollment courses, in the last year, it's about $2.7 million in tuition savings. That's a lot of money saved for families, but it also is a lot of experience that students can gain to prepare themselves for that transition from secondary education to post-secondary education. And so in speaking of that transition, that's what we're doing here. So as Dr. Little mentioned earlier, some board members mentioned earlier, with instructional models shifting across the country and higher education and students having to learn how to be engaged and learning how to navigate an online course, our students are practicing that right now as sophomores, as juniors and seniors. And looking at the specific numbers we have right now, Another part of my job is I oversee the College Center at Gilbert High School, which is an early college high school program. What that means is that with our partnership at Midlands Technical College, our students in the College Center have an opportunity to earn their associate's degree in high school at no cost. Right now, we have 38 sophomores, and of the 39 sophomores taking college classes in our district, 38 are College Center students. One student is a River Bluff High School student. And so that's a way to improve student access, to remove those barriers. But we're also preparing more students at an earlier age, those first-generation college students, those from lower income backgrounds, like I was as a student. And we're giving them access early, but also not just access, we're giving them support. And we use AVID in the College Center, which stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. And it is a college and career readiness framework. And so we're doing lots of things across our district and working with many partners and many teams at each of our schools to make sure we have an experience that our students will thrive in, and that they know that I can always get support from my high school and from my district, from my counselors, my administrators, from myself. And I'm just privileged, and I get the opportunity to do this job every day, and it's something that I am very excited about, that I love to do. It's nothing greater than having a conversation with a parent, and they're just so appreciative and so grateful that the district has committed this position to create this position that I'm in and have been in for the past year and a half to support their families' pursuits of higher education. And at this time, I'll take any questions.
With 4 of our high schools having essentially a block scheduling model, and 1 of our high schools having the mod scheduling, are you seeing less of those students being able to take dual enrollment classes since their day-to-day schedule is so different?
No, it hasn't been too much of a barrier. What we found is that the one high school that is not on traditional block schedule, they've been able to, they understand their schedule, so they've been able to use blocks of time to plug in for students in the first semester to take those 2 courses, at minimum 2 courses. And then in the spring, they kind of have, once again, blocks of time. And with the asynchronous courses, those online courses, they kind of fit into whatever the students' paths are, so they can still take those courses. So it actually hasn't been a barrier at all.
Earlier you said that Midlands Technical College wasn't partnering with Pillion. Why is that?
It's not that they're not partnering with Pillion. There wasn't enough interest in the courses that are offered through Midlands Tech. And so the students they didn't put in course requests for Midlands Technical College courses. And so the students who we do have enrolled for dual enrollment at Pillion, they're all through USC Sumter. So that's something that we know that's an area that we can expand in and make sure we find the courses that the students are interested in there and find ways to get them access to those courses.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Just quickly, because you know this is one of my favorite topics. Talk about how we're going to expand. You talked about the K through career. Talk about like mathematics and science and some of those things that we did not have with USC Sumter that we're planning on Midlands Tech. Just give us 60 seconds or 120 seconds.
Sure, thank you for reminding me of that. I'm looking at the actual courses that are being taken right now throughout the fall, and we do have some students in the probability and statistics. We have students in calculus. I have students in college algebra. We have students in some engineering courses. And so as students are learning more about the courses that are available to them, and we talk about some STEM pathways and some mathematic pathways, we do have some students who are advanced in high school. And so they've kind of exhausted the list of high school math courses that they can take. So they're looking for, they don't want to stop math, they want to continue their development of math. And so now that they understand that they can have access to these courses, they understand more about it. So when you talk about the IGP process, the individual graduation plan process at high schools, students and families are now being made aware that, hey, your math, you can go ahead and get a head start and go ahead and take these courses now so that as you transfer, and we're doing the research too and looking at the admissions process and how do these courses transfer across the state, and also how do these courses transfer outside of the state. So that's a common question that we get. And so we do have resources that we share with families that say, hey, you can do this. And then so we want to look at those final math courses, that 4th level math. There are many opportunities at each of our high schools to say, hey, we know you have X amount of students who can take this course. Let's go ahead and get this section or multiple sections prepared and built into your master schedule. So then either you have an affiliate instructor at your school who can teach it, or we get an adjunct instructor who can come out and teach that course. But that's another area where we know our numbers can grow. and we can provide the supports for students who are going to be taking more, those higher level math courses.
Yeah, those fourth level math courses, really, with our new partnership, we're going to start moving out of and I think of fourth level non-math major courses. So again, that's personal for me because I had one that lived in my house. And for her to have been able to take college algebra in high school would have been a huge advantage. Instead of right now, her freshman year, we're sweating every day when she goes in to take college algebra. And we're just like, please, Lord, let her pass this class and be successful in it. That's the idea, is that could now become a high school course. And you're taking that course in the supportive environment of a Gilbert High School where you know everybody, or in Lexington High School where people are really looking after you, and you're not thrust into a college environment, because those are the classes. And we're also working with Midlands Tech to identify those stumbling block courses. Where are the courses that people get called up? Is it first semester English? Is it that college algebra? And then we can identify some of those things and offer those things in college and in high school, so they become as well. But that's when the math thing, where Midlands Tech opens up for us, especially in science and mathematics, that we just have never had access before. And it begins to change how we can view these third and fourth level classes. Why do chemistry, we could offer chemistry. We can offer some of these other areas, especially for students who that's not going to be their major. They're not going to do those things, or they only need us. Like if they're a nursing student, just for example, I'll use that randomly. If she's not going to need 3 levels of chemistry to graduate college. It's those kinds of things. So we can now be a little more creative in what we offer.
Sure, and as we add, as we send our projections to Midlands Technical College, they've been very great at working with us to say, hey, whatever you're projecting, if you get it to us as early as possible with those course requests, we have the instructors we can dedicate specifically for Lexington District 1 cohorts, or we'll find the instructors. So that's been a great thing too. And Dr. Little just mentioned like an English 101 course. As of right now, we have 408 students taking an English 101 course across our district. And for the numbers based on grade level, just overall, with those 39 sophomores I told you about, 38 are the College Center students and 1 at River Bluff. 219 juniors and 445 seniors are taking at least 1 dual enrollment course right now in our district. And so there's an area, the junior class too, that we can find, and Dr. Little and I talked about this months ago, where we work closely with those sophomores when they're doing their IGPs to say, hey, based on your data, you qualify, you're eligible for dual enrollment courses. Let's find ways to make sure you understand that and that you can make those course requests to start your junior year as opposed to them starting their senior year, which is not a terrible thing, but if we can get you started earlier and get more courses under your belt and get that experience, your transition from secondary to post-secondary is going to be much smoother.
Our dual enrollment offerings, how many of those are in a virtual platform, percentage-wise, roughly?
Percentage-wise, maybe half.
Okay.
And so what many of the high schools are doing is they're providing lab space during the day where there's a proctor, maybe a teacher that would have had a planning period or something, or somebody's monitoring that class, where students are, on their MacBooks and they got earphones plugged in and they're either in a virtual course or they're in that online course taking those classes. So I'd probably say it's about half because of, with the high community spread right now, not having a whole bunch of extra people, many extra people coming into the school.
Sure.
So it's about, but what really helps and what we want to find more of in our high schools is the affiliate instructors. Typically, instructors need a master's degree plus 18 credit hours in that discipline to be approved to teach a particular course. And so we know there's a lot of untapped potential at our high schools, and what the affiliate instructors will allow us to do is it creates much more flexibility in the master schedule, because you're not trying to plug in a course into a particular slot in time, because that's when the adjunct can come in. You can build it around the people who are already in your building. And so that's an area we definitely want to look to expand from this year to next school year.
And outside of course offering, or course availability, I should say, there's no real cap that exists on dual enrollment.
No, the university and college partners do ask us to have at least a section of about 12. So as long as we have a minimum of 12, we can have a specific Lexington one or that high school's cohort. If there are fewer than 12, they can even plug them into combined sections across the district, or sometimes we get plugged in with neighboring districts of high school students. We want to try to keep them in the high school student section, just so instructors understand that they are still high school students. But if some students take an advanced coursework, sometimes, there's higher level math like a calculus, they may be combined into a general Midlands Technical College section. So they're very flexible in working with us on that.
So you
For
probably
both USC Sumter and Midlands Tech.
Sure. So you probably see where I'm going with this, is that in a platform such as this, where at least half of, or we'll say half, is through a virtual platform, you're able to demonstrate a savings to the state of $2.7 million without a cap. That's kind of an interesting dichotomy that exists between what we were talking about earlier.
One area, as you mentioned, that one area that we must consider as a district is that as those numbers grow, the manpower has to grow, because it takes a lot of time and effort to coordinate the application process, the transcript process, getting standardized test scores to the universities, getting paperwork to the university. It takes a lot of time. And right now, we're a very limited department, which is two, myself and the person we just hired. And so as that number grows, and I'm also overseeing the College Center and the AVID programs that are at 7 of our schools, we can do it, but we just need the human resources to be able to do that effectively and to make sure it's a quality program.
Fantastic work. Really, really great stuff.
Thank you.